Hello friends, this video on structural organization of animals part 16 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Hello friends, this video on structural organization of animals part 16 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Question is, how does information detection and impulse conduction take place by nerve cells? So let us suppose something happened. You touched a very hot object. So now how do that message gets, suppose you touched it with your finger. Now how that message gets conveyed from your finger and how it reaches your brain, how it reaches your body parts, and then again your brain will order your finger that okay, come back, and the finger will be taken aback. So how this impulse conduction is taking place? So let us have a look. Now there are specialized tips of some nerve cells in the sensory organs. So let us see how this conduction actually takes place. Now as I said, there are specialized tips of some nerve cells in the sensory organs. When I say sensory organs, I am talking about eyes, ears, nose. So there also nerve cells are present, and some of those cells will have specialized tips. So information from outside will be received by the specialized tips of those nerve cells. So these receptors are present in the sensory organs. Now in the previous slide, while talking about the structure of neuron, I told that dendrite is that part of the neuron which brings information from outside. So now dendrite will bring the information from outside. So chemical reaction will start in the dendrite. So these are the dendrites, right? So in these dendrites, it will get the information, some chemical reaction will start. So electric impulse will get generated. Now this electric impulse will travel from dendrite to the cyton, that is the cell body. So from dendrite, the electric impulse will go to the cyton, and from cyton, axon will take the electric impulse. So from here, axon will take it. So it will go to axon. Now from axon, where it will go? It will go to the axon endings. So it will come here. But till now it is only within that specific neuron. Now at the axon endings, what will happen? The impulse will get converted back to chemicals. Okay, like how here some chemical reaction happened and the electric impulse was generated. Here again some chemical reaction will take place and electric impulse will get converted into chemicals. Now what will the chemicals do? They will cross this boundary and reach another neuron. So from axon endings, it will cross the synapse. What is synapse? Synapse is nothing but this joint of, or this junction between the nerve ending of one neuron and the cell body of the other neuron. So this junction is known as synapse. So now this will cross the synapse and then it will reach another neuron. Correct? So now it has reached another neuron. So here also again from dendrite, so it will reach the dendrite. So now what has reached the dendrite? The chemicals. So at dendrites, reaction will start. So the chemicals will get converted into electric impulse. The electric impulse will move here. Again, it will move here. It will go to axon endings. Again, chemicals will be produced. They will cross the synapse. Again, in the dendrites, it will generate electric impulse, and this process will continue. And that is how this conduction takes place. Like suppose you saw something, suppose you saw a tiger in front of you. So what happens whenever you see a tiger? You get horrified and you start running. Correct? So you see the tiger with your sensory organ, that is your eyes. Now inside your eyes there are some nerve cells which have specialized tips called receptors. So those receptors will understand what it is. It will receive that information that okay, this is a tiger. So now that information will be transmitted to the dendrite of the next neuron. So there it will get converted to electric impulse, and then it will keep on getting transmitted from one neuron to another, and finally it will reach your brain. Your brain will say, oh, this is a tiger. Then brain will send back its order to your muscle cells, and then you will start running. So that is how it happens. Now, when I am telling all this, you might be thinking that this is such a long process. So how does it happen so instantly? Because each of these steps takes very, very less time. So that is why everything happens as an instantaneous process. In fact, this is how the junction, that is synapse, looks like. So here you can see this is your another neuron and this is the axon endings. So from here the chemicals will jump here because there are some receptors already sitting here in the dendrites of another neuron. So they will just get into this. So this is how the chemicals cross the synapse. So this is how information detection and impulse conduction happen by nerve cells. Right? So what did we see? This conduction of impulses is an electrochemical phenomenon. Why do we say so? Because the entire process you saw that there were two things involved, chemicals and electric impulse. So there were some set of reactions which were happening at the dendrites where the chemicals were getting converted into electric impulse. Again, a set of reaction happening at the nerve endings where the electric impulse were getting converted into chemicals. So it is basically an electrochemical phenomenon. Right? So where do these set of reactions take place? At the dendrites and at the nerve endings. So now let us talk. So now we have fair idea about neuron. So now let us talk something about the nervous tissue. So now we will end our discussion on nervous tissue taking a live example. What happens when you touch the open socket? You get current, right? So why does this happen? Now what happens as soon as you touch that and you feel that electric shock, what do? You do not touch it with your other hand as well, right? You try to remove your hand immediately. So how does this process take place? So what happens is, what is the stimulus here? Electric shock is the stimulus. And which is the receptor organ? So here, if you talk about the stimulus, what is it? Stimulus is nothing but the shock, electric shock. Which is the receptor organ for this human being? How he knows that, okay, there is an electric shock? When he touches it. So which is the receptor organ here? Receptor organ is the sensory organ, that is skin in this case. Correct? Now what happens? So skin receives, inside the skin there are some nerve cells with specialized tips called receptor cells. So they recognize that, okay, fine, this is an electric shock. What they do? They start transmitting it to all other neurons. Correct? So through some nerves, it reaches the spinal cord. Now, I am not going to talk about brain, spinal cord and all the nerves here in this lesson because they are not part of this lesson. Here we are only talking about the tissue, only the nervous tissue part. So, if you want to have a better understanding of the nervous system, the reflex action, in that case you can refer the videos on control and coordination of class 10th. You will get a detailed idea on that. So now through some nerves, let us suppose through sensory nerves, it goes to the spinal cord. Now here in this case, it really does not need to go to the brain because these are examples of reflex action where you need instant response. So there is no time to travel till brain. So for immediate action, they always go to the spinal cord. So spinal cord is responsible for all the reflex action, all immediate actions. Again, the spinal cord will do the processing of that sensory information. So all that processing will take place and then it will send it back through the motor nerve. Now, what is sensory nerve? What is motor nerve? I'm not going to discuss all that. But you should just know that any nerve I'm talking about, it is made up of nervous tissue and the nervous tissue has the neurons. So the same process of information transmission is happening inside them. All these things I have discussed in control and coordination of class 10th. So now this motor nerve will go to the effector organ. Which is the effector organ? That is the organ which has to take that action. And what is that action here? You have to remove your hand. So the effector organ in this case is the muscles of your hand. Right? And then this muscles, again, go back to your muscular tissue. Now once the muscle received the information that, okay, I have to remove my hand from here. So it will start contraction and relaxation and as a result, there will be a movement. So this will result in response. And what is the response? Hand would be removed. So you got a basic understanding of what happens in, how the information gets transmitted within our body, right? Okay, so with this, I'll end my discussion on animal tissues. So we have discussed all the 4 types of tissues at length, and I'm sure that you have got a fair understanding of epithelial, connective, muscular and nervous tissue. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.